Hi and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I say, if you would like to see more videos like the one I'm doing now or any of the previous videos, please feel free to like and subscribe. It really does help out. It gives me an incentive to keep going with the channel. It's always nice to know that people are actually watching your videos. So today, here we go. We've got a watch I've been meaning to review for quite some time actually. This is my Christopher Ward Trident GMT 600 C60. Bit of a mouthful. Oh, Mark II, I almost forgot. So, this, I traded one of my watches for back last summer. And I didn't know what to expect. I've never had a Christopher Ward before. I'd heard of the brand. I know they try and bring Swiss movement watches at a more affordable price by cutting out the middleman type thing, and I thought I'd give it a punt because I hadn't got another white dial, as I traded my only white dial for this one. And wow, I have to say, trade-wise, I think I did really well, and I really do think this is a cracking watch. It's hard to knock it really on any front at all. The watch itself is the C60 model, so that indicates that it is 43mm across. There is a C65 which is 38mm across. This being the Mark II, I find is more of an upgrade from Mark I because it has this lovely ceramic bezel, and the ceramic bezel really does reflect the light nicely. It's got I hate to say it, it's got a bit of bling to it off the bezel. It does reflect the light really well. The newer Mark III I'm not so keen on because the Christopher Ward logo it's a full Christopher Ward written on the side. It's not the best of logos, but there you go. This one has just got the almost like C Ward at the top, which is actually, it looks quite nice, I find anyway, to my taste. So the watch itself is a 43mm, though it does wear smaller than that, but I'll get to that later. And it's only 13.7 high, and it's also 22mm lug width. So overall, I think the sizes are pretty spot on. The reason why I say this wears smaller than what it does is when you look at the case design, and I really do like the case on this one. The sides here, you can see where the lugs come down here, they're quite curved, so it really does wrap around your wrist really nicely. So this is what aids to it actually seeming smaller than it actually is. The case has got this lovely satin finish. I guess it must be brushed, but it's done in such a way you almost can't see the brush strokes. It really is incredibly fine, which I think is really nicely executed on this watch. The top of the lugs are polished, so you get a real nice sort of like a polished finish off the top of the lugs here. And coming around to the other side, again we have this satin finish. You can see on the ends how the return of the underside of the lugs are polished also. Here you've got the crown guards. The crown sits nicely into the crown guards, and being that it is a 600-meter diver, it is a screw-in crown, and it's got a nice signed crown on the end of it. The actual crown itself, it's really well executed there. The only thing I would say is borderline a little bit, almost feels a little bit sharp, a little bit rough, slightly. I'm being very picky here because I really do quite like this watch the way it's been thought out. So also you have a bit of polishing on the underside here, which is quite nice. When we get to the back here, we do have a screw-in case back. Being a 600-meter, I'd expect that, and it does have the Trident emblem and this wave pattern which mimics the dial and the Trident GMT 600 GMT ceramic. So it is quite nice. I'm normally not a big fan of these kind of style Casebacks. I find sometimes they can irritate my wrist. I had an Omega Seamaster, I think it was, or a couple of them a few years back, and I couldn't stand it. It really dug into the back of my wrist. That's just me, I'm being picky. Now this watch comes with either a bracelet or leather strap. On the bracelet, the UK full retail price is £1,000. On the leather strap, I believe it's about £100 cheaper. I like the bracelet on this a lot. It has got polished center links, which are always a pain, but it is quite a nice bracelet as it has an interesting clasp. I'll show you in a second. The dial itself has, it's this white face here. It's hard to capture on the camera. I'll have to do some close-ups, but it does have a nice wave pattern going across. A little bit like an Omega, I have to say. Applied indices with lume on there. I love the second hand as it has the trident on the back of the supporting side of the second hand. Obviously it is a GMT, which is indicated by that orange hand. To be fair, I wish they could have maybe changed the colour of that orange hand. The orange is a bit nondescript. It's just, it could have been any other colour, I find, or a brighter orange. To be fair, I think a black hand would have looked quite good on there. Something like that. Anyway, the orange hand is a little bit, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. The actual hands themselves are very vintage style hands, but I like the fact that they come to a point and allows you to set the watch very accurately. So that I do like. The movement in this watch is an ETA movement. It's a 2893/2. I think it beats at 28,800 oscillations per hour. It's a 21 joule movement with approximately a 42-hour power reserve. It's the same movement as what's fitted in my Zinyu 2, and which then means that when you pull out the crown to the second position, you can either move the hour or the GMT hand or the date window. At some point I want to do a video showing the differences between this style of GMT and one of my Rolex GMT I haven't reviewed yet, so I will do a video on indicating the differences between the two. The bezel on this, as I say, it's a ceramic bezel. It has the lume pip at the top. It has the first, it's a bit of a strange one because it has your first 15 minutes indicators supporting the diver function of this watch, and then after that it goes to a GMT setting, which is a bit of a strange one really. It's kind of I feel like it's trying to cover all bases, and I don't really have a problem with that. Normally I set the GMT hand with Canadian time, as I have relatives there, and if I'm setting it here, you have to think for a second, yeah, what the actual time is. So just one of those things. I think if you've got a GMT watch, you always have to have some excuse to try and figure out what you're setting it for. But that's what I use it for. But overall, the dial is very clear, very concise. I like it. And I say the lume, if I just very quickly just illuminate the lume here, is really impressive. It really does glow. And I've said it before, I wear my watches throughout the night, so if I wake up I can see the time. I'm not one of these who like a bright clock in the room with a light on there. So this, I find I can see all through the night, no problem at all. I guess being green, it must be C3 luminoma. I could be wrong. So anyway, that's basically that. Oh, as we say with the bezel, it's a 120 click and it is solid. I'm not kidding. There's virtually no play at all. And the clicks, it's got a coin edge for the grip. It's quite stiff, but it's actually, it turns once it gets going, it turns easily. The only thing I would say it's well executed, it's easy to grip, the 120 click is very precise, but it's not the best sounding. If I do, I don't know, one of those things, but it lines up perfectly, and yeah, it works flawlessly. So the bracelet is actually, I've got to remember, I think it's a split pin. Yeah, it's a split pin style. So you can only push them one way, which is indicated on the inside. It's actually not indicated on the inside of the bracelet, so you have to know how to do that if you're going to change a bracelet. But it's quite straightforward. Again, maybe subject for another video at some point. But it's got the polished center links, brushed outer side, so a little bit like a GMT style from Rolex. The clasp is the newer style clasp with their newer logo, which is supposed to indicate the Swiss cross with the English cross next to it. So it's an interesting thought. It's got the push buttons at the side, very positive. And what it has, instead of like a diver extension as such, it has this micro adjustment here, which is a little lever you actually press in, and you can move it. So if I do that now, you can see where it is. It goes in. It will not come out. I have to push this lever across, and it comes out. So I think that's quite a neat little trick. It's maybe not as refined as say some of the Rolexes or some of the super high-end watches, but on a watch costing, you know, sub £1,000, it's actually quite nice. Overall, it's a very solid bracelet. I've got no problem with the bracelet at all. I'll put it on the wrist so you got an idea. A quick wrist check. I'm still sporting my Larco, which I really do have a soft spot for. Anyway, let's take that off. Now this is an interesting thing. So you've got a 42mm Flieger pilot's watch, and there you have a 43mm dive watch. So you get the idea. The dive watch looks a lot smaller. Anyway, on the wrist. Now remember, I've got, I think it's just under a 7¼ inch wrist, and it doesn't look a 43mm watch at all. I think, anyway, I find it doesn't look like that at all. It really does, it's perfect. I wouldn't want the 38mm because I just think this actually sits really well. The clasp is lovely. I say it is a brush finish clasp. You do pick up marks on the clasp, we all know that. But with a small bit of Scotch-Brite, you can remove them, which I've done in the video prior. And it really is, I think, a nice solid. It really does feel like a solid watch. What I was amazed by this as well is the timekeeping. It's less than a second a day. One thing I should have said as well, thinking about it, the crystal is sapphire and it is AR coated. I'm trying to think what else. It is a heavy watch. The head of a watch I think weighs in at 105 grams, but this on the strap, sized for me, comes in at a whopping 195 grams. It really is old-fashioned steel. It just feels really hefty on the wrist. But it's one of these watches I find it looks like a far more expensive watch than it is. If you were to slap any other brand logo on there, you would double or triple the price of this watch. And I don't think when it comes to quality wise, you'd really notice anything. It really is, it feels just a really solid, well screwed together bit of kit. I can't, I'm really struggling to fault it. I say maybe the bezel action could be a little bit softer, slightly better click. I would maybe like to see screws on the bracelet, but I really am being nitpicky here. I'm trying to think of things which I could, make it better. But overall, I find this watch is just excellent. It really, really is good. I possibly, out of my collection, I don't wear it as much as I should. I don't know why, but it really, every time I do put it on, I really like it. You can see on the clasp there, we do have signed Christopher Ward on the metalwork there. So that's it really. That's my thoughts of the Christopher Ward GMT. Overall, excellent. I say, I've even got a free service when I turned up in the box. It does come with a free service, which at some point I will use. Would I buy another Christopher Ward? Yes, but I probably would wait until they're on sale. I can't fault this watch. It really is it's a lovely watch. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the review, and I will see you next week for another video. Please like and subscribe if you like, or feel free to comment. I'll try and answer any comments you have on these watches. Say, I might have missed something. I'm not perfect, but no problem. Just let me know. I'm only human. Okay then, all the best. See you in the next video. Bye.